so full of it.
Component are usually yeah, retail is retail.
The looks could kill. Be nice.
There's no audience on. Oh, here, okay, now we can go.
Sorry.
I now call the November 5th, 2024 Financial Committee to order at 6:45, excuse me. Consideration of claims. Would somebody make a motion to pay the consideration of claims?
Your Honor, I make a motion to pay the consideration of claims to be paid in the amount of $771,602.59. Manual checks in the amount of $1,832.81. Payroll and liabilities for October 22nd, 2024 in the amount of $497,024.79 for a total of $1,270,460.19.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Say aye. Motion passes. Is there anything from the floor?
No, Mr. Chairman.
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
You sure, Sister Harris? You have nothing to say about the budget?
Mr. Chairman, I'll be doing a fiscal year quarterly report last on the agenda this evening.
Very good.
I will note, though, that there is a payment for a snow blower attachment to RDO equipment for $371,487, and it is for the airport snow blower. I believe it will be just in time for some weather to be rolling in.
Some possible weather.
Possible weather.
I'm sure it's
That's all I
coming
have.
sooner or later.
Is there any other questions on the board? None? This committee stands adjourned.
November 5th, 2024, regular meeting of the Riverton City Council to order at 7 p.m. Councilmember Salisbury has agreed to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Councilmember Larson has agreed to give us the invocation. If everyone could please rise and remove hats.
Our eternal Heavenly Father, we are thankful for the opportunity to be here as City Council for the City of Riverton. Father, we would ask that Thou would bless us, that we might be mindful of our constituents and be able to serve them as best we possibly can. We would ask also, Father, that Thou might watch over and bless our first responders, for they care for those in need and that cannot care for themselves. We would ask Thee to bless and watch over the police as they regulate and strive to maintain order. Father, we are thankful for all our blessings, especially at this time of the voting season. And we are thankful for that freedom which we have that Thou hast given us. We would also ask, Father, that Thou might bless all of Riverton with civility and fruitful and be able to do those things which are closest to their hearts. We ask this in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Happy Election Day. Administrative Services Director, Ms. Harris, if you could please conduct the roll call.
Yes, Your Honor. Councilmember Dean Peranto.
Absent?
Councilmember Lindsay Cox. Here. Councilmember Mike Bailey.
Here.
Councilmember Carla Borders.
Absent.
Councilmember Kyle Larson.
Here.
Councilmember Christy Salisbury. Here. Mayor Tim Hancock.
I'm here. I'd entertain a motion to excuse Councilwoman Borders and Councilman Pronto from tonight's meeting as they are assisting with the polls.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Salisbury, second by Councilman Bailey. Any discussion or amendments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. I declare we have a quorum. I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Larson with the motion, Councilwoman Cox with the second. Any discussion, amendments, additions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. I vote aye. Motion passes. Introduction and oath of officer. Police Chief's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor, Council. This time I'd ask Denise to please step forward. Your Honor and Council, tonight I have the pleasure of introducing Denise to our police department staff as a 911 dispatcher. Denise grew up in Los Angeles and moved to Vegas in 1996 to be with her family. In 2011, she joined her parents in Idaho, where they later retired. She has, in her career, become a long-haul truck driver, where she has logged more than 1 million miles across our highways. She came off the road to be closer with her family, and she joins us now. And on her off time, she enjoys gardening, raising farm animals, and working on crafting in her spare time. With Denise joining our force, we now have a full staffing in our 911 dispatch center, and anticipate that the next council meeting will also have an exciting update on our sworn officers and those positions. But this time, Your Honor, I'm pleased to have you help with the oath of office.
Down there. All right. Use that as your cheat sheet, okay?
Oh, thank you.
you could raise your right hand. So I'm going to say I, and then you're going to say your name, and then
Full
we'll go
name?
to Will. Yep, please. All right, I
I, Helen Denise Lisea,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wyoming,
and the Constitution of the State of Wyoming,
that I have not knowingly
that I have not knowingly
violated any law
violated any law
related to my appointment,
related to my appointment,
nor caused it to be done by others,
nor caused it to be done by others,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
I had to think for a minute what day it was.
It's poll day.
Well, it's my birthday. That's why I almost put one
happy
there.
birthday.
Yeah, thanks.
Would you like some?
Putting down my year of birth rather than today's. All right, good. Thank you. All right,
Thank
now
you.
we're going to have you go through and shake everybody's hand.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, glad to have you.
Thank you very much.
Ryan, you have an extra scope?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Welcome again.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So Denise, it's traditional to now have a song, if you'd like.
Cowboy Joe would be acceptable.
Yes, if you know Cowboy Joe, that's a good one. You could probably get everybody here singing it. I think a lot of us here went to UW.
Rootin' tootin'.
He always sings. No, we're not going to do that. Welcome aboard. All right, council committee reports and council members roundtable. It's been a little bit since our last meeting, so I think we're not going to just have I haven't had any meetings. Let's start with you, Councilwoman Salisbury.
I attended the Wyoming Seniors Inc. meeting, and it's one of the quarterly meetings. They had a smooth audit. Auditors were there, and they do amazing things. We're lucky to have it headquartered for the whole state here in Riverton, and Wilcox does a great job as the director of it, and Denise Roseno keeping all the books. And the reports that all the directors gave were just amazing. The numbers of seniors they help with Medicare, just all their programs. So that was exciting.
Great.
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, wait, I have to say the Riverton High School football game was amazing, and
Yes.
Woman Cox's sons really brought it, so
Ah,
excited for Friday.
it was a lot of fun. We've got I guess a fairly important game this Friday too, semifinals.
Yeah.
So that's great. All right, Councilman Larson.
Your Honor, the meeting that I attended was last month for the solid waste. The open space or space above ground or the closure of Lander is still estimated at 29 to 30 there. It's difficult on the latter part to give an accurate empty space area. Anyway, Lander Transfer Station is 3/4 completed, and the Sandral station is, I would say, effectively about 97%. And but that doesn't mean that we're going to be taking garbage out there. We will still be filling Lander up to the completion line. There was another word I was going to say, but escapes my mind.
Full of something, right?
Yes, and for people that are wondering why we aren't going to Sandral or why we're just going to Lander, the reason is duplication. Those trash machines, compactors, if you will, cost $500,000, $750,000, and having more than one or two around is just deplete your assets quickly. So that's why the reason for taking all of the solid waste from Riverton to Lander instead of to Sandral. Yes, we had Lander to complete by 24, but that's gone by. But the real reason is the amount of people that it would cost. You'd have to double your workforce and your equipment to do the job, and that isn't economically wise. It's still wiser to pay the additional gas money or fuel money to transport it, but it saves in the long run. Anyway.
Makes sense. Machinery and personnel.
Yeah, and personnel and all the other stuff. We are hiring an engineer, and that will occur sometime by January 1. And he will not be like the previous engineer, but he will be a trainee, learning and ground up type individual. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Bailey?
Thank you, Your Honor. There was a lot of stuff going on in the last 3 weeks almost since we met last time. But to me, the big one was I did attend the Riverton Airport Board meeting. And again, Kyle just sent out a report here explaining the numbers for October, which have been pretty amazing. We hit 2,319 passengers in October, which is the first time the airport's ever exceeded 2,300, which is pretty amazing. And then so far this year, we're at 17,273, and it has not been very long ago that we were all worrying about whether we could hit 10,000. So we've really improved the Riverton Airport. Obviously, today we all got to vote on whether the half-cent economic tax goes through. I guess we'll find out later down the road today whether it did or not. But again, a huge part of that has been because of the FAST committee and all the work that they've done, and the minimum revenue, the guarantee that we have to give SkyWest and United to make sure that they can economically come in here. And so that's been a big help for the airport. So hopefully that continues. Chamber of Commerce has had a lot of stuff going on, lots of new business openings and different things. And so they've been really doing a lot of work. And I think that's all I've had over the last couple weeks. Thank you.
All right. Councilwoman Cox?
The rec board met last night, and just want to remind everyone that our meeting in January would be the meeting where you come and present for grant money, and to remind those that were awarded money this year that those deadlines are December 31st. So if you have receipts, to get them turned in. We will have a vacancy coming up, so that will be listed. And then also, I just wanted to note that the date for that and the application will be on the Fremont 25 website. And I wanted to just mention that I subscribe to the alerts from the city, and I really do appreciate those. It's refreshing to have a little bit of information come in, even the reminder that today was the day to vote. I mean, it was just, they're nice to have, so I appreciate that you're doing that. And that's all I have.
Okay.
Your
Sounds
Honor,
good.
I forgot to mention on Saturday that
Hope
Central
it's
Wyoming,
too late. I'm just kidding. Go
the
ahead, Councilwoman.
Central Wyoming College, they're having the quick draw art thing with snacks from Sweet, what is it, Expressions or whatever, surprises, and it's a really fun activity. So I encourage people to go. It's 5 o'clock in the Art Center.
Is that going to be
Saturday.
Sweet Surprises again? Because I knew they were,
I don't know for sure.
she was,
Closed her shop.
she did, and I didn't know if she was maybe still catering or not. It was really good last year.
I think she is for that, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, quick finish, I think, is what it is,
Well,
right?
it's like what the quick draw is, but they do some before so people can watch them. So you can watch the artists paint and you can buy other things. It's really a fun evening. That's
Yeah, it is.
great for the community. So
Great, thank you. And when was that again?
this Saturday at 5.
Write that down if I can get over there. All right, anything else? Okay. I'm sorry, I was just teasing you.
I know.
Oh,
One
Mr. Larson,
thing I
too.
forgot to say was last Saturday, Tractor Supply opened up. And that was a fun place to be. It's different than the other places, and it's close to the new hospital foundation area, and so it was just kind of fun to be on a place on the old prison guard farm that is now commercial and is doing its correct job generating income.
Yeah. I think they have the grand opening this Saturday.
It's coming weekend, yeah.
Yep, I think at 10.
That was a soft opening, yes, I know,
Right,
but
yeah.
it was still pretty tight in there.
Lots of fun.
Yep,
Good.
yep.
All right, Mr. Butterfield? You guys didn't want to have
I'm
add
good.
anything last minute?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. I do have a few things that I'd like to bring to the attention of you and the public. This upcoming Thursday, we will have our Planning Commission meeting here at City Hall and Council Chambers at 5:30. The public is definitely welcome to attend that. We also have our Fix Our Road Citizen Committee meeting this upcoming Monday. That will be in the bullpen area of City Hall, and the meeting starts at 11 o'clock. As a reminder, the Fix Our Road Citizens Committee is your advisory group to make recommendations on the use of the optional 1% tax, which is dedicated for roads, water, and sewer infrastructure improvements. Not this Friday, but the following Friday will be the airport board meeting, and that will be held here in the council chambers at 8 a.m. So not this Friday, but the following. And the public is invited to attend all of these meetings. I'd like to thank our staff and the community for participating in the annual Halloween trunk or treat here at City Hall. That has become one of my favorite events that we do, and we appreciate the children coming and their families coming and the opportunity to just have some fun. And so I want to say thank you to the community for supporting that, and also to our staff who donate candy to make that event possible. By way of announcement, the yard waste program for curbside collection will end next Friday, November 15th. So those that are used to putting out their green waste and have regular collection, the last day for the curbside collection is again next Friday. I would like to note, however, that any resident can contact the Public Works Office and schedule a time to deposit green waste at the facility that's just next to the baling facility on Smith Road. So if you don't have all your green waste cleaned up from your property by this Friday and still would like to haul items down, you're able to do so at the green waste facility off of Smith Road.
Yeah.
This upcoming Friday will mark the end of our open advertisement for a consultant to help us with the feasibility study for the multi-sport complex. This is a qualification-based selection process, and the purpose of the request for qualifications, or the RFQ, is to receive a consultant that can do a market analysis, an operational analysis, and a financial analysis of a potential facility that could support various sporting and recreation activities, likely a facility that has an ice rink, though. After we receive the submittals of qualification, we'll have a committee review those and then propose to you as council the most qualified firm to then go to contract negotiations. We are looking forward to that and hope to receive some good proposals from firms. It should be noted that we do have grant funds to help with the feasibility study that came from the USDA, and then you as a council prioritize funds as well in your budget to match the grant monies that were received.
Do you think we'll have a recommendation from that committee by the next meeting or the first meeting in December?
Your Honor, my intention is to bring a recommendation forward on the 19th.
Okay. Somebody had asked about that, and that's what I had told them. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't incorrect.
And we've had several firms express interest so far. I've received a submittal of qualification from one firm already, and I anticipate receiving at least 1 to 3 more. I'd like to express my gratitude to our police department and our emergency responders. There have been a few events over the last several weeks that I think have been very challenging in our community, and we're always appreciative of our dispatchers, our police officers, our fire department, and anyone else that's doing emergency response to help families and people in need. And so I want to recognize them and say thank you. It should be noted also the Chamber recently recognized our first responders as well, and we appreciate that. As we talk about the police department, there will be 3 interviews held tomorrow for patrol officer candidates. There is one candidate that is in background from the interviews that were conducted last week, and a conditional offer of employment has been extended to a patrol officer, a potential patrol officer. I want to say thank you to our Human Resource Department and our police department, specifically the Chief of Police, for continuing to prioritize our recruiting efforts so that we can provide resources to our community and also support our police department.
I guess just, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you, but just as clarification for the public, I suppose, a lot of what we've been hiring lately has been new individuals that we're having to train, but what we're focusing on and trying to hire right now is lateral transfers and people that already have experience. So looking forward to finding some qualified individuals in that area.
No, that is correct. I will note something in brief, but I learned of something today that Wyoming PBS is doing, and I thought this was an interesting opportunity for our community to get engaged. On November 15th and 16th, Wyoming PBS will be hosting a storytelling session with members of the community. And the whole point of this is to have Wyomingites tell the Wyoming story. I really liked this thought and this proposal, so anyone in the audience, anyone watching, anyone who feels that they are able to share a few stories about Wyoming, what makes Wyoming great, has that chance to be interviewed and participate in this documentary opportunity with Wyoming PBS. Again, the dates on that is November 15th and 16th, and you can reach out to Wyoming PBS, just located at Central Wyoming College, if you have further questions. Finally, I think it's appropriate to make note of the bedazzled microphone that the mayor has this evening. And while we really strive for professional meetings, we also want to recognize that it is the mayor's birthday and wish him a happy birthday.
Thank you.
And that's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Couple of things. This last Sunday, I had the opportunity to participate in Saving Daylight. I hope we did it. I hate daylight savings time every year. I wish we didn't have it. Had the opportunity to go to Denim and Diamonds. That was a fundraiser for Help for Health Hospice. They had a drawing for a car. They had a drawing for a $2,500 necklace. I can report I did not win either of them. Neither did Mr. Bailey. I will say a former mayor did, though. Ron Warpness won the Cadillac. And so I talked to him afterwards, and I asked if, he'd give it to me. And no, I didn't. I didn't do that. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. So I guess maybe 10 years down the road, I might be able to win a Cadillac.
Yeah.
Because I think it's been about 10 years since he's been mayor. So we'll see if that works that way. Had the opportunity to attend a lunch and learn with the chamber. Really good opportunity there. It was, we heard from our local law enforcement. We had our community services officer there, Jeff, and also Sergeant Stephen Sullivan, speaking to our business owners about different ways they can exercise their rights to protect their business, to protect their merchandise, their inventory, that sort of thing. Very good opportunity, and I appreciated the conversation. And I appreciated the chamber putting that on. I really feel like the chamber has made some great strides in improving and changing, and practically don't even recognize it anymore. They've just they've done a lot of good things, and appreciate their hard work. Today was my first meeting as a member of Rotary. It was great. I just recently joined the local Rotary Club and giving out dictionaries to people. And if we have anybody else from the council join, we're going to have problems. We'll have to start advertising the Rotary meetings. Mr. Bailey's a member of Rotary, and Mr. Carr, who will be sitting in that chair in January because Lindsay is ditching us, is also a member. Well, I guess he's not a member yet.
Not quite, but going
Yeah,
to be.
we've got to vote on him. So that was good. WRTA, so if you're familiar with WRTA, Wind River Transit Authority, they're the buses, the big blue buses around town, and I guess now they're going to be more white. But they had an open house that I had the opportunity to attend, and that was a lot of fun. They recognized the city as a partner, recognized Mr. Bailey as a partner, which was good, and just really appreciate the hard work that WRTA is doing. Really, Tim Nichols, who is the director, has a vision for just how we can connect the community through transportation. And he's got a 5-year plan. He's really just motivated, and really appreciate his hard work. And it actually kind of surprises me when you think about it that you can travel Riverton to Lander for $2, which is probably better than I can drive it. I have a van. It doesn't have very good gas mileage. But anyway, they're just really trying to do things to make it more accessible. They've got buses now traveling. It used to be it was just like twice a day that you would be going to Lander, and now it's every 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it's about 4 or 5 times through the day that you can be going to and from Lander. And just really appreciate what they're trying to do, and it was a good opportunity to attend that. As Mr. Butterfield noted, I did attend the first responders dinner. That was very humbling. Former Judge Wes Roberts was one of the speakers. I was one of the speakers. I was not as impressive, but Judge Roberts did very well. And just, I think, communicated to first responders how important they are, how much we need them, and how much of a difference they make in our lives. And I appreciated him bringing up this fire that we had that jumped the river down near the river bottom, I guess is the name. No.
Riverside.
Riverside, yes. And that came really close to residents, to homes. And I just appreciate how quickly our fire department got on that, got it put down, and just stayed out there all night making sure that our community was safe. That's a sacrifice, and it's one that they don't get enough recognition for. Sitting out all night and just watching to see any signs of a spark or anything like that and being ready to address it is not easy. And I really appreciate especially our Chief Blumenshine, who was out there all night, the other members of the Riverton Fire Department, a volunteer organization, and just really makes a difference to our community. And so I hope whenever you see our firefighters that you tell them thank you, because it's a sacrifice. And we have lost firefighters here when they've been fighting fires. It happens. Had the opportunity to attend a Fremont County Association of Governments meeting. Good opportunity to meet with them. Talked a little bit about the future there, a little bit about WRTA, that sort of thing. I don't know if there was anything really huge to report from that. Also had a chance to attend a DUI task force meeting since our last meeting. What a difference that task force, I think, has made in our community. We've got one of the highest incidents of DUIs in the country here, DUI-related fatalities. And so being able to sort that out and put everyone's heads together to come up with ideas. We've got the multi-jurisdictional enforcement team. We've got different operations that they're running. 24/7 program, just all sorts of things that they are doing. And really, it makes a difference. We have seen a drastic decline in DUI fatalities in Fremont County and hope to be able to see that continue in the future. Let's see. See, Denise, I say more often than I should too, so. She was just saying usually she doesn't say that. Other than that, I guess, had the opportunity to attend the trick or treat here at City Hall. I would encourage our city council members to come to that. It's a lot of fun. The staff really enjoy it, and I think they look forward to it every year. And Mike Miller, our community development director, had one of the best costumes. I'm not going to tell you what it is because you weren't there and you missed out. So if you go next year, you can find out maybe. So that's it from me. Next, we have communication from the floor, citizens' comments. I would encourage folks, if you wish to address the council regarding an item that's not on the agenda, this would be the time to bring it up. If you want to address the council on an item that is on the agenda, this is maybe a little bit different than some meetings, but if you want to talk to us while the agenda item is up, feel free, just try to get my attention and you can have an opportunity to speak then. I'd ask that if you do speak, that you keep your comments directed to the topic at hand. Also, that you limit your comments to 5 minutes for individuals or 10 minutes for a group. I would also ask that you refrain from directly making comments about another person. Address all comments and questions to me. That's just a matter of formality. Refrain the use of individual names, and would ask you to avoid personal criticism, ridicule, or name-calling, fighting words, other language that might be disruptive to the meeting. So I usually set a timer, and it'll just beep when 5 minutes are up. But for an individual, I'd ask you to keep your time to 5 minutes. If you're part of a group, split it up between your group for 10 minutes. But if you do want to talk about a specific item on the agenda, just wait until that agenda item is called, and then when we have an opportunity for discussion up here, you can get my attention, you can speak then. Anyone who wants to speak? If you could
Your
just
Honor.
tell us your name and
Council members, Casey Kierlaber, I live over here on Pinecrest. Mr. Butterfield, real quick, is what we talked about that light on Pure Gas and Webwood on the agenda?
Your Honor, would you like me to answer that?
sure, yes, please.
Your Honor, no, that's not on the agenda. To bring the council up to speed, Casey reached out to me and communicated a desire to have a street light located at the intersection of Pure Gas Road and Webwood,
Okay.
and really near the proximity of the the Rails to Trails crossing. This is something that we communicated over the phone several times. Casey mentioned he might come to the council meeting last month. He didn't have the opportunity to do that, but I followed up with him after the council meeting and let him know that Mr. Eggleston has been in touch with Rocky Mountain Power, has received an estimate for the cost of that streetlight, and Mr. Eggleston is working on seeing if that's a service that we can provide. We've communicated that it is something that is valuable to the community, and that's why we're trying to move forward with it.
Perfect.
So that, I think, brings you up to speed on the conversations I've had with Casey at this point, and obviously he can address you on any other questions he has.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So my issue, ever since I went to nursing school, they really change your mind on some things. Safety, safety, safety. Living on Pinecrest, transiting over to Walmart, which very common later at night, pitch black. Rails for trails, just pitch black. Very, very, very unsafe to the public. We've got children out there, past their curfew, of course. Other populations, which I won't mention, they do transit through there quite a bit. And there are times where I was not able to see somebody just because of the way that it's an acute angle is the worst. And what my deal was talking to Mr. Butterfield was to get just one light. There was power poles, I believe, on the south side. So, and that would be the biggest one because there's that parking lot on the north side. It's not that big of a deal, but it's a huge safety issue. And I understand that we have the decorative lights. That was my favorite term there. One that went down, the one that everybody has hit like 4 times out there. And I drove by just before this. There was 6 within a proximity of 150 feet of each other. I understand it's important, but down there it's pitch black. Up here is lit pretty good. But I just wish for at some point some funds to be allocated towards getting a light there because it's a huge safety risk, and that's the worst thing that could happen. Somebody get hit.
I appreciate it. That's good. We actually had someone who I spoke to about having lights on the south end of City Park for the same reason. When you're coming by, you know, you've got that cross street there between Federal and people crossing that road there. When it's dark, you can't see them. And the same thing here where you've got traffic as well as foot traffic, bike traffic, anything like that. Being able to get some lighting there would be helpful. I know we had gotten a quote for that area near City Park, and I'm sure you're on this one, but we can definitely discuss that.
Perfect. I appreciate your guys' time.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
He is absolutely correct off of Pinecrest. But the big difference between City Park and that location is there are other lights around City Park. There are no lights. The propane store or storage does not have enough lights. And the road, Pure Gas Road, is not a 90 road, meaning you look left and you see all oncoming traffic. It's more of a, as he said, a difficult angle. And so when you look, you do not see the total vision going west towards Walmart. You just don't. And it's hard to see going up Webwood what's oncoming. So I am fully in favor of putting a light there, simply because there are too many people that have tried to go up rails to trails thinking it was Pure Gas Road.
And I think if I remember correctly, Mr. Eggleston, the quote that we had gotten for a light over near the south side of City Park was about $2,800 a light, or was it more than that?
Your Honor, I believe the entire project was like $6,800 total.
For I think
For
we're talking about
2 or 3 lights.
lights right there. So, okay. If you were going to just put one, though, in isolation, that might be a little bit of a different story than kind of having 3 in pretty quick succession there.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Eggleston has already been in touch with Rocky Mountain Power to receive an estimate. He's met them on site. We do not have a contract yet as it relates to the final estimated cost. Mr. Eggleston is also looking at our budget. We do have responsibilities and we manage our budget and the city public tax dollars as carefully and closely as possible. This is something that we believe is important, and therefore we've already made movement to see if this is something we can make happen, which I believe it is something we can do. But we need to get the final information from Rocky Mountain Power, and then Mr. Eggleston will do a final review of his line item, and then we'll be able to report back.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you bringing it up. I mean, as much as we can do anything that can make that area safer, I think it's a good call. Anybody else who wanted to speak? All right, we'll move on. Administrative Services Director, Ms. Harris, could you please read the consent agenda items by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Excuse me. Approval of the minutes, October 15th, 2024, regular council meeting. Approval of the minutes, November 5th, 2024, Finance Committee meeting. Approval of the Finance Committee recommendations, November 5th, 2024. And approval of the municipal court report for the month of October, 2024.
Thank you. Are there any other items requiring further discussion from that consent agenda?
Your Honor, the Finance Committee met And motion was to pay $771,602.59 manual checks in the amount of $1,832.81 payroll and liabilities for 10/22 in the amount of $497,024.79 for a total of $1,270,460.19.
Thank you, appreciate that. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
So moved.
Councilmember Larson with the motion, Councilwoman Salisbury with the second. Any other discussion? Amendments, additions, subtractions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. I vote aye. Motion passes. Riverton Medical District funding requests. City Administrator's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. As a preface to this item, I think it's valuable to provide a little history and background on the optional 0.5% excise tax. That was something, as Councilman Bailey mentioned, was on the ballot today for our community to consider. But as we've led up to the general election, there have been a lot of questions surrounding the optional 0.5% tax. So as a reminder, this tax was approved by citizens of Fremont County during the primary election of 2020. This was something the City Council unanimously supported as far as it being a ballot initiative. That was through Resolution 1411, and you as a council approved that in May of 2020. After the tax was adopted and voted in by the populace, the City Council worked to establish a advisory committee called the Evolve, Diversify, and Grow Our Economy Committee via Resolution 1422. And that was done in September of 2020. While EDGE, or the Evolve, Diversify, and Grow Our Economy Committee, serves as a recommending body to the City Council, it should be noted that the City of Riverton and the governing body associated with the City of Riverton has full governing authority and responsibility over the use of the optional 0.5% tax. As defined by the ballot language associated with the tax, economic development is defined as any project that retains or increases employment and or results in a net gain of money into the community. Over the last 4 years, as project proposals have come forward, the EDGE committee and then also you as a governing body have had a mandate to meet the threshold of awarding funds to entities that can either retain or increase jobs or bring money into the community. The ballot initiative further outlines that 30% of the net proceeds of the tax go towards transportation, and 70% is allocated to the county and the municipalities to manage and invest in economic projects of their choosing. For the 30% for transportation, by memorandum of understanding between the local governments, 20% is dedicated towards air service and 10% has been dedicated towards ground transportation. I think it's important to provide that background because while this is something that we have discussed for 4 years, it's been at the front of mind for a lot of individuals as they were preparing to vote. And I think it's important to give a brief history and an outline of what the tax is and what it can be used for. For tonight's topic, the medical district recently submitted a letter requesting to be placed on the agenda this evening. And we have members of the medical district here, and if it pleases the council, they could probably present to you what their request is. In the letter, they communicated that they normally would like to go through the EDGE committee process, but felt it could not do so due to scheduling and contractual conflicts. The Riverton Medical District is currently requesting $250,000 of the optional 0.5% excise tax to support the construction of the new hospital. The EDGE committee recently reviewed and prioritized funding applications from the community, and these applications were associated with the September advertising period. In your packet is a table that outlines the project proposals that have come forward during the application period, and also the prioritization from the EDGE Committee. The recommendations of the EDGE Committee are scheduled to come before you as a governing body at the next business meeting, and that would be November 19th, 2024. As outlined in your packet, there is currently $327,376.32 available in the optional 0.5% account that is tied to the 70% discretionary portion of the tax. So as a reminder, that 70% is up to you as a governing body to allocate, so long as it increases or retains jobs or has a net influx of money into the community. Also included in your packet is a breakdown of how the recommended awards would impact the available account balance, and also how this funding request would impact that account balance as well. And the letter from the Riverton Medical District is also included in your packet. Again, Your Honor, you do have representatives from the Riverton Medical District here, and if it is something you so choose, you could have them discuss in more detail what their request is.
Thank you, Mr. Butterfield. Anybody from the Riverton Medical District who is wanting to speak? Mr. McGuffey? You can come up here, I guess, and tell us your name. We know who you are, but we know who you are.
Been here before. My name is Court McGuffey. I'm the board chair of the Riverton Medical District. Your Honor and councilmen and women, thank you, and city staff, thank you for having us tonight. I'm with Susan Getzinger and Roger Gose, who are also on our board. Wanted to give you a little background and just take a couple minutes and maybe update you on our project and where we are. There's been some action out there at the site lately, which has been pretty exciting. But I brought some renderings with me. I don't know if I can hand those out to the council. If
Be
that's
fine.
okay.
Just don't include any drugs or anything with it.
Thank you.
Actually, as a lawyer, it's a very important rule that you don't get to hand things directly to jurors. Big deal.
I thought this would be worth seeing. Just real quick, I'm going to try to sum up maybe the last 7 or 8 months here to you guys, and that'll kind of clue you in on why we're here. We went out to bid last spring for the hospital project, and we were under a design bid build. The word I'm thinking of, delivery method, I guess. It was our third delivery method that we've gone through over the last several years with USDA. We've changed. I won't get into all that, but we had 2 bids come in. We had 1 bid come in actually a little under budget, and then 2 bids come in very over budget. And we vetted that low bid. It was an outfit out of St. George, Utah, and it was evident that after we investigating with them, they were in a little bit over their heads on our project. Very nice folks, but we didn't feel like they could deliver the project. And so then we wanted to pick one of the other bids that was high and negotiate with them, because we felt, for various different reasons, that their numbers were a lot higher than they needed to be. And USDA would not allow us to do that because of that delivery method, design, bid, build. You have to pick the second lowest, and that's what you're stuck with. So that was not an option for us because we didn't have the funds in our budget to cover that price. So what we did is we non-selected all of those bids, and we changed delivery methods to contract manager at risk and put out another RFQ, RFP, and thankfully, both of those 2 high bids submitted proposals again to be our contract manager at risk. and then we could select one of those, and then you can negotiate all you want and value engineer. And so we selected back in June BHI. Groat House from Cody was the other one that submitted an application. BHI is out of Vernal, Utah, but they have an office in Rock Springs and have done a lot of work, and just finished up some work in Lander. They're very familiar with Wyoming. But so after selecting them, we went to work this summer, a lot of work in value engineering our project and trying to squeeze out everything we could to get this thing built. And you have to be careful when you do that with the USDA, because you can't affect the program at all, because you can't. The program is what drives your revenue, which pays the loan payment. So you can't get rid of any services. So most of this is cosmetic, and I brought this rendering for you to see what the building looked like kind of this spring, and then kind of what it is today. And I mean, if you really look at it, you can't tell too much difference, I don't think. And it's still going to be a wonderful facility. But we shrunk the parking lots. We lowered the height of the atrium just a little bit. We got rid of some of the eaves on the wings. We found out those eaves are worth about $1 million. So those went away. And just kind of some cosmetic things, but still providing all the services that we've set out to provide our community from day one. So still going to be a great facility. The other thing that we really did was go to work on soliciting more bidders to our job, and that was probably the biggest difference this time around. We had a lot more interest in our project. Bidding it, we went back out to bid in the middle of August, and we that interest, along with these value engineering changes, dropped our construction budget considerably to just about $31.5 million from about $45 million, and it's pretty amazing. But just one example, the first time around, we had an HVAC bid from an outfit out of Salt Lake for $7 million. And we're working with Billings Clinic. We're an affiliate of Billings Clinic. And you know, last March, Mitch Goplin, who's the vice president of facilities with Billings Clinic, gets a call from an HVAC company in Billings. And they're like, hey, did we get the bid? And he's like, you didn't put in a bid for our project. And they're like, oh, well, yeah, we did, but we're working through the group in Salt Lake. So the sub to another sub. And Mitch is good friends with the outfit out of Billings, and found out that their number was about $3 million less than the Salt Lakes, what they submitted. So we found that in a lot of different trades, and that's how we were able to get this number down to this $31.5 million. So kudos to Mitch and his team up at Billings Clinic and all the hard work that we put in with BHI and our board, because that's what we needed this number to get close to get a shot to get this done. So that being said, we were still a little short of where we needed to be. And the bid came in about the end of September. And the big thing that became an issue for us was we were recipients of $15 million from the state. We received $10 million in ARPA money a couple of years ago, and then last year we received $5 million more to help with cost overruns. And our group was really involved with our local legislators and the governor's office, trying to. The state got $1 billion of ARPA money, and that got divided up. I know our city's taken advantage of some of that money for different projects, but we worked to get some of that money towards capital construction projects. And I never thought this would be an issue, but because I thought we'd be building way before now. But we had to be under contract with our contractor before the end of October. And the reason for this was the state wanted to be sure that those funds were going to get used, because if they weren't going to get used, they wanted to reallocate them to other projects throughout the state, because they didn't want to send that money back to the federal government. And they also have to show the federal government by the end of the year that those monies are going to be spent. So we had to be under contract. So we get this new guaranteed maximum price in, we're in the ballpark, and we're kind of scrambling around to find the additional funding. We secured some other funding through some different sources, and then we were about $1 million short of where we needed to be, and this was just a few weeks ago. And the USDA would not let us sign our construction contract until the project was fully funded. So I knew that, and our board knew that, there was money still available at the city here through the half cent and the county. At the time we thought that there was about 225 or 250,000 here, and we knew that the county had maybe twice that, or not quite. And then I knew that our board knew that there was people around the town that would step up. And so we had a local entity in town here pledged the $1 million and to buy us time, basically, so we could get our construction contract signed. And that gave the USDA assurance that the project was going to be fully funded. And then, it gave us time to come to the city council, which we're here tonight. And we met with the commissioners at their last meeting about a week and a half ago, and submitted an application for the MOVE funds in the amount of $300,000 for them. But we knew as a board that we had missed the deadline for the EDGE application. And normally we would have submitted an application to EDGE and gone through the process, but because we missed the deadline, we had to reach out to the Mr. Butterfield and the council and get on the schedule here. So we didn't know, how, depending on the vote tonight, how that goes, how much longer this program would be around. Hopefully, I hope it's around for this next cycle. But so that is why we did not go through the normal EDGE committee process. And I had a good conversation with Leo, the chairman of the EDGE committee, this week, and got him up to speed, because that's the last thing we want to do. Is those guys work hard to make recommendations to you guys as council members, and so he was very supportive of what we're doing, and I was happy to learn that there's more than 250,000 available for this next go round. I know all these other projects are probably very worthy and of funding, but this one is just the economic impact it's going to provide for our community is just pretty amazing. So that's why we're here in front of the committee to ask for this $250,000. We have the letter I submitted to Mr. Butterfield. We've had over our the several years that we've been working on this project, our construction budget has changed quite a bit, and I'm proud that we've come up with all the funding to cover these increases in cost. We've asked, we've had an increase in our steel package of about $700,000, and that's where this money would go to help cover that. So that is why we are here today. Just lastly, I want to let you guys know I've gotten a lot of phone calls a few weeks ago. A lot of work started out there at the site. That is not us yet, but that is CITA, the Eastern Shoshone Tribes Economic Development Arm that's developing the business park. Part of our land deal out there was to get our site pad ready. And when when they were assured that we had the funds to get this thing going, they stepped in and finished the work that they needed to. We had about $500,000 in escrow still from the land deal, and so they're raising the site up to get it pad ready. I think they're raising it up about 5 or 6 feet. Billings Clinic wanted this building to be proud to the highway, and as you can, if you've driven out there and taken a look at that, it's going to be very proud to the highway. They still have to. Right now, it's just where the building is going to be, but then they're going to build it up where the parking lots are going to be. The stakes closest to the road are kind of the edge of the parking lot, and so that's what's going on now. They'll be out there for a few more weeks, and it's our hope to get started right after they finish up, and there'll be a smooth transition here. We're not going to be able to do too much, probably because of the weather, but the big thing is we'd like to get done is they're called RAM aggregate piers, and everybody knows that ground is not the most wonderful ground out there. Basically, they're going to put several hundred holes where our footings and foundation are going, and they pack rock into those. Once they get, they dig holes all the way down to bedrock and then pack holes in them, or rock in them, and they stabilize the foundation. So we'd like to get that in before the weather gets too bad, and then not too much this winter. It kind of depends on if we get a winter like last year or we get a winter like 2 years ago. Hopefully not like 2 years ago. And then, the main bulk of the construction is going to start this spring. But sorry, Your Honor, that was more than 5 minutes, I'm sure. But
I think
that's kind of where we
we're
are.
well over.
I didn't hear the buzzer. So with that, I'll open it up to questions and would appreciate your consideration for these funds.
Do you have, I guess, 2 questions, because really, the reality is this would be, we've got a local company that pledged $1 million, which I really appreciate. This is going to be a benefit for that company as well as for the hospital, I would think, in terms of not being out that money, because they're basically trying to step in just to get time.
Yeah, yes. I think, this community and our board have been working on this for so long. I think they just felt like $1 million wasn't going to separate us from making this happen and, changing healthcare in Fremont County for the next 50 years. So, and we had to get that construction contract signed by last Thursday. And happy to report we did. And the USDA, the state has all of our paperwork, and so that money is secure, our $15 million. It's not going to anybody else. It's staying here. So, yeah. It was a risk, I think, but we knew that through this half cent with the county and some other local folks that would step up. And actually, Wyoming Community Bank about a week and a half ago just donated $250,000 to the project. So, and I know more of that stuff is coming because people know how important it is. But we needed a solution to get that construction contract signed.
If you've got, assuming everything goes well, assuming that the city of Riverton provided $250,000, that the county provided $300,000, which I guess we were on the radio yesterday, and it was our understanding that that was something that they were saying they're going to do that, and there was a little bit of hullabaloo on Facebook, as there always is, about how that wasn't actually accurate.
Yeah, we've just applied. They have not given us the funds or approved them yet. We're going through their process because it was a month. We were able to get that application in on time, so we got that in last week.
I think there was some discussion as to whether you would be eligible under the new guidelines in terms of not giving applicants money more than once. Anyway, I guess I say that just to note that there's always a hullabaloo on Facebook. And I guess to correct things a little bit in the sense that, yes, we recognize that. So assuming you got 300,000 from the county, 250,000 from the city, already have 250,000 from Wyoming Community Bank, which is set and done, you're just short 200,000,
Correct.
okay?
Yes.
And you're hoping that that's going to come from the community, other organizations within the
Yep.
community that will step up,
Yep.
okay?
Yep.
And I know, let's see, your initial fundraising efforts, how much did you guys raise with like your initial real push where it was trying to remember how much you had gotten
Yeah.
locally at that time?
So, we've been here before the council. Council was
Well,
kind enough to give us 880,000,
Right.
but we've put together about just locally about $1.7 million over the last several years. And that was people sending in $5, or we had donations as much as $100,000 over the last several years. So in total, I mean, we're pretty proud of that. We will be, once we break ground and get going, we're going to do another fundraising campaign. We feel like once people see this going and it's going to happen, that there'll be a lot of excitement around. There already is. I mean, phone calls I've gotten over the last month with the CITA folks out there doing their work has been pretty cool. So Livingston, Montana, which I don't know if you guys have driven by that hospital off the interstate up there, but they built a beautiful facility about 9 or 10 years ago. It's a Billings Clinic facility, but they did a great job of everything then in there is named after somebody or something or some family, everything. So
The Court McGuffey entryway.
yeah, or bathroom or I don't
Yeah. So the other question,
Closet.
yeah, the Bailey broom closet.
That's right.
Arrange
Yeah.
that, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I think that could be a good idea.
yeah.
Or maybe the parking lot, the Bailey parking lot.
Yeah.
How many jobs do you, because that's the question we tend to ask our EDGE applicants. How many jobs is this hospital going to bring to Fremont County?
So part of our performa, we'll have about 140 jobs, various providers, primary providers, and then, your nurses, and then support staff and administration. That won't be all at first, it'll be a slow build up. But then the construction jobs, there'll be over 100 construction jobs during this time period. We're happy to report, even though we had more competition with bidders and we have some more out-of-state people coming in to work on things, there are still several local contractors that are going to help put this together, which is wonderful. And that's what our big goal is to try to use as many local folks as we can. So even though we have gotten, close to about $1.3 million of this half-cent money through the city and the county, our amount per job is far less than anybody else's, by far.
Per job.
Per job. So I feel like it's a good investment.
And then if I know we've got this on the agenda tonight, but our next meeting is when we actually have set to talk with all the other EDGE applicants. Sometimes they'll come in, they'll present. We usually hear from our EDGE committee, which we've got our committee chair back here, Mr. Kosarag. Is there any reason why you wouldn't be able to wait until that time to be able to kind of have this be considered with the other applicants? I know your letter specifically asked for it to be on the agenda today,
Yeah.
but I guess if what we've got is a pledge from one company, it seems like there is a need and you're wanting to get this covered and you're not wanting to leave, the local company out here twisting in the wind.
Mhm.
But is there any reason we wouldn't be able to do this later?
Well, Your Honor, could we make a motion and vote on it?
I'm sorry?
Could we make a motion and let the council vote on the motion?
Yeah, yeah, I guess that's just what I'm wondering from,
I mean, there's,
I guess I would say that is a possibility. The one thing we meet with USDA now almost on a weekly basis. And as we kind of tie up these last few things before they give us a letter to proceed, the sooner that we can secure these funds, the better.
okay? Mr. Bailey?
I got just a couple questions. So, again, without running it through a calculator, your list on your letter here has got the 22.9 million, and then the half, you've got 5 million from ARPA. You said it was 10 and 5, so 15?
Yeah. So what I did is Mr. Butterfield wanted kind of a little accounting of the project, and so what I've done is I underlined construction for that reason. This is just the construction part of the project. If we wanted a total project cost and budget and outlay, I could provide one of those for the council, but I didn't want to get things confused. So we have our total project cost is going to be about $66 million. And that includes over $8 million of medical equipment, over $9 million of working capital that will be funded through our USDA Community Facilities loan. In order to make it more simple and straightforward for the council, and not to get things confused, we kept it to the construction piece of things. And so, our USDA Community Facilities loan is for $37 million. $22 million of that will go towards the construction of the project. So it's a good question.
I guess to me, it'd be helpful to see the whole picture also. Know where you're putting our 880 that we already supplied, and
I'd be happy to provide a whole sources and uses. That might be like a special meeting with the council to go over all that stuff. But I'd be happy to do it.
Well, it's good just so that we don't have, like the mayor said, people on Facebook picking, all the numbers weren't there, and all that kind of stuff too. So.
Yeah.
I also think
good.
we need to remember that's a unique project, and all the other projects that have come before us to the council provide a financial incentive to the people receiving the funds. They get a financial incentive. This is a nonprofit group that they will get no financial benefit from the hospital. The money that goes into the hospital, but the money will stay in Fremont County. It's unique from all of our other projects that we've funded before.
We're not debating that.
No, but when you're talking about people talking on Facebook and stuff, none of them are doing that.
Mm-hmm.
This is a unique project.
Don't be mixing facts up with Facebook.
But I mean, these people put in years. When did this start? What year was it?
So for me, I think
Roger, when did you start?
I had my 6-year anniversary, but I think Roger's on like 6.5. Yeah, because I've been back in Riverton 6 years now.
So the time, the effort, the money that this group's put in, I would like to make a motion tonight on this.
What's your motion?
My motion is to provide the Riverton Medical District $325,000 out of the EDGE funding.
How much? 325?
Yep,
What's our balance right now, Mia?
327.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Yes, our current balance is $327,376.
Okay, we have a motion to fund the Riverton Medical District to the amount of $325,000. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
The difference between hiring at the hospital and cutting hair or serving hot chocolate. The difference is almost 20-fold. And the caliber, the history has been that Sage West bought all of the practices out. Then they salaried the doctors. Then they cut the salaries of the doctors. Then they cut them out. And at that time, to my best knowledge, there was 15 to 16 physicians that left. Those auxiliary jobs behind them also left. Of all of the jobs that we could add to Riverton, these are the best, most stable, highest education that we can. And whatever comes, unless there's another hospital on the horizon or a gun manufacturing with ammunition that we're digging ourselves, this is the best opportunity to employ, buy gasoline, buy tires, buy cars that there is, and houses. This will return more money than we're giving out. And I understand, man, I would love to say, well, let's wait and do this and do that. But, you know, here we are. It's November by my clock, and snow flies, and we're into springtime, and, you know, we can whistle all we want, but we have the money. It's the better decision to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. And I guess you could have a seat if you'd like,
Okay.
Mr. McGuffey. I appreciate
you
you
for your
hanging
time.
out up there. No reason to make you stand up there. We might call you back up in about 2 minutes to answer a quick question, I'm sure. From my perspective, I don't have any problem, as far as I'm concerned, if there's a need, I don't have any problem providing funding to the hospital.
It's good to hear.
Yeah. My only concern is, so I've got a couple concerns. First off, we don't know how the vote's going to go today. If the vote is going to go that this is not going to continue, that kind of changes things. The need for the airport, for example, might be a little bit more because we've got to keep the airport limping along until we can figure out a different option. Not that I'm saying that that's what we would definitely do with the money, but it's definitely something we could have to talk about and consider as a council. There's also the fact that if there's not really anything else that's on the horizon, if we're kind of like, this is the swan song, so to speak, of the half-cent funds.
There'll be 4 more months.
You're correct. Yeah, that's true. Then I'd like to know that before we make the decision so that we could maybe with the other edge applicants say, hey, we're still going to keep in mind this recommendation. It's just going to be your funding's going to be later. And that might be a way to do things where we'd say, fine, we'll fund the hospital now. And then we'll consider this as basically one of the last things that we're going to fund will be these other applicants. But anytime I buy a car, anytime I do anything, I don't like to make decisions quickly. I like to have all the information. Not that I'm saying we are court. You sent us this letter as timely as you could, and you and I even talked about this a couple of weeks ago. But it is nice to be able to look at all the options before we make decisions, if we have that possibility.
Your Honor, I think also, and I'd like to hear from Leo on what his thoughts are. You know, the Edge Committee's put a ton of work into the last couple of months, and the applicants that we have, and we have recommendations. You know, and I don't have a problem including the hospital district in that overall discussion, but I think we should look at them all together. And like you said, we may push funding some of them off to a later date. But I mean, I don't think it'd be fair just to go, oh, sorry, we made you go through this whole 2-month process, and now we got to push it back, and we'll have to start over again. And so, you know, I think, and we've been very, you know, I think overall we've all been very supportive of the hospital project, and we realize the economic benefit it brings to the community and all that, but it's a little bit quick to do it without having more time and be able to consider all the options and give the people that did apply on time and all that, at least the ability to come make their presentation to us and then make a decision. And we got 2 people on the council that's not here tonight. I think we deserve to give it the full council, view and, look at it further. I don't see a reason we probably won't just get it handled, but
Well, and that's,
give them all the benefit of the doubt.
that's if we have that time, right? And that's really was my question for Mr. McGuffey. I mean, if we've got, this were the kind of thing where, like, you were closing tomorrow, we've got to sign all the documents tomorrow, it'd be a little bit of a different
Right.
story.
Right.
If we've got other funding possibilities and that kind of thing that might still be explored as we go, heck, it might be a situation where if funding doesn't materialize, kind of like we were able to have Wyoming Community Bank step up, if we didn't have other funding materialize, and if the county isn't willing to step up, maybe the city could step up more, even though Councilwoman Salisbury is basically trying to say all of it, which is fine, but I mean,
4 more months that we'll have
I agree.
coming in.
All of it that we have now, you're correct. And what are we getting in the fund about every month?
Your Honor, we're seeing an average of about $70,000 a month that's coming in for EDGE funding.
And is that under the new MOU where we've only got 30%? That's under the old one.
This is under the old MOU.
Okay. All right.
And that ends December 31st, or does it go to July?
Your Honor, if you
Go ahead.
if you don't mind, I'll try and answer that. I've had several reports on how long the tax would be collected should it fail tonight. Last week, I spoke with the county treasurer's office, and the information I received from them was it would collect until the end of the calendar year. For the city to receive what is collected, it's usually a 2-month delay. So you could anticipate receiving revenues from the optional 0.5% should it fail tonight through likely February.
So we still haven't received, we've received from August. We haven't received from September, so we'd get September, October, November, December, which is exactly what Councilwoman Salisbury said, 4 months. And we'd get all of that by February, March. And at that point, it would be somewhere in the realm of 280,000,
Yeah.
which would be enough to cover the EDGE applicant's requests, or what has been approved by EDGE and the hospital district, but it would be a delay in terms of paying it to the EDGE ones if we went forward with Councilwoman Salisbury's motion tonight. Just trying to figure out where we're at. Councilwoman Cox, just because you haven't spoken yet,
I would call for the vote.
want to vote?
Yeah.
Anything else? Any other discussion? All right. All in favor of funding the Riverton Medical District, $325,000 of the available 0.5% funds, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
All right. I vote aye. 4-1. Okay. We'll have to figure out where things go with EDGE. Maybe we'll be in contact, Chairman. We'll figure that out. It doesn't make sense to have everybody come here and talk about that on the 19th. So I think we'll adjust, but I'll reach out to the applicants myself, Leo. I think that's just the easiest way to do it. We'll get that sorted out.
Thank you guys for all your work and time and efforts. Appreciate it.
Keep up the good work. All right.
Hopefully not 6 more years, but
It is 8:24. I think it would be a good time to take a quick break. Are we okay with that? Let's do a 10-minute recess, come back at 8:35.
And the amount of nurses that just left the hospital. I mean, I ran into one the other night when I had to take my wife's grandpa in, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I had to come back." Did clinicals over in Hot Springs. So many of them migrated over there. We don't have a sense of community. These nurses, we're bringing all these locums in, paying them 100 and
Traveling nurses, traveling
whatever.
doctors.
Yeah, the locums, I mean, cost so much. They don't care about our community. I mean, when we bring this in, it's going to be wonderful. I wish there was actual nurses that would come to these things.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen over 14 years, it's gone really downhill. And hey, you know what? We don't care anymore. And we need that back. We need a sense of community. Better patient care. Plain and simple. That's what it boils down to.
Well, and that's what we're hoping for, is that we get full-time people here. They live here. They're not just coming in
Oh, yeah.
for 2 weeks and flying off somewhere else with their paycheck. And
Yeah, exactly. And I can't stand it. And that, and it helps drive up healthcare costs to people like us that pay premiums, paying a nurse $100-something an hour. And I'm not banging on them, but we can lower that. I think this hospital, I mean,
Yeah.
you make
Well,
to do that.
we've got CWC producing, and not one of them are staying.
I have to drive over to Thermopolis for their clinical.
Well, we do Lander, Morningstar, Westward Heights, Thermopolis.
Yeah.
It's great, but most people I went with nursing school, they weren't from here originally, and 2 of them went to Alaska. So,
Yep.
I think it'd just be great for the community.
Yeah.
That's just my 2
Good.
cents.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Your 2 cents are definitely welcome here. All right. We'll be back into session at 8:38 p.m. session. Back into our regular meeting, I guess, business meeting. Next up on the agenda, public hearing and consideration of ordinance 24007, first reading, street parking regulations. Mr. Miller, your report, please.
Your Honor, Council. Thank you. The City Council requested the Planning Commission develop a parking committee to research parking regulations in the city in 2023. The Planning Commission met and nominated a subcommittee called the Parking Committee. Parking Committee met and has proposed the following changes to Title 10, Section 10.16.110. These changes are a start to the process of developing code to have better control of parking situations on public streets in the city of Riverton. They also provide necessary definitions that will make it easier as the city moves forward with new adaptations of code. There's a couple of key things that we're going to talk about here that show up in this, and part of it is the definitions, and part of it is a ground basis of where we're going to start working forward. Ordinance 24-007 amends the title of Section 10.16.110 of Riverton Municipal Code from vehicle 20 feet or long, 20 feet long or more, not to park on certain streets at night, changing the title to vehicle parking restrictions on city streets. It also amends existing definitions of trailer and recreational vehicle and introduces several new definitions. Specifically, it adds seasonal closures in its definitions. The purpose of this addition is to make city streets safer and provide more room for snow plows on streets that are prioritized in the snow and ice control plan to receive service. The maximum length of vehicles allowed to park on city streets is proposed to increase from 20 feet to 22.5 feet through Ordinance 24-007. This is to accommodate the current length of long bed crew cab trucks that are available today that are longer than historically was available. It should also be noted the new ordinance adjusts parking restrictions related to vehicle length to be in place all the time, whereas the restrictions for 20 feet is only for overnight parking on streets less than 45 feet wide. I'll go through, I'm going to go through the ordinance itself and read a couple of these. So, Chapter 10. 16.110 vehicle parking restrictions on city streets definition. Adjacent to parked means the property the vehicle or trailer is parked directly in front of on the same side of the street as parked. Gross weight means the total weight of a vehicle or vehicle combination, including the weight of any load carried in or on the vehicle or vehicle combination. There's a couple of these here that are pretty key. We're referring back to some YDOT definitions. So the city of Riverton previously has some regulations that don't go word for word the way that YDOT does. Gross weight is one of those. It varied a little bit. Recreational vehicle also varied a little bit, and so both of our rules didn't line up necessarily very well. Recreational vehicle means a motorized vehicle or non-motorized vehicle which can be driven or towed by a motorized vehicle, which is designed or built for temporary living accommodations for recreational camping and or travel use, including but not limited to motorized motorhomes, motorized camping vans, camp travel trailers, pop-up camp trailers, and slide-in pickup box campers, but does not include pickup box toppers. Seasonal closure means the time period between October 1st and May 15th each year. During this time period, no travel trailers or recreational vehicles as defined in this chapter may be parked on any city street for more than 72 hours and parked only on this portion of the city street that is directly adjacent to the property, to the landowner's property, or with written permission from the landowner. Those rulings defined in seasonal closure there are critical portion of what come from the parking committee. Section B, no vehicle with an overall length of 22 feet 6 inches or more when measured between the two most distant points along its center line, and a width of 8 feet when measured between the two most distant points perpendicular to its center line, shall be parked on any of the streets in the city of Riverton. This does not pertain to the loading and unloading of goods and services for residents and businesses in Riverton. No vehicle with a gross weight of 10,000 pounds or more shall be parked on any city street in the city during the seasonal closure or from dusk to daylight and any day of the year. This does not pertain to the loading and unloading of goods and services for residents and businesses in Riverton. No trailer with an overall length of 20 feet or more or recreational vehicles in general shall be parked on any of the streets in the city of Riverton during the seasonal closure. No trailer with an overall length of 20 feet or more or recreational vehicles in general shall be parked on any streets in the city without the permission of the adjacent to parked property owner. Those are the changes in general. One thing that's pretty critical to talk about this, the parking committee, this is about a year and a half ago that council, parking got brought up on something and council kind of requested this, and we assembled the committee and they've been working for a long time at it. We went through about 14 Wyoming communities. We completely went through all of their parking regulations to see how they are working and dealing with parking. Casper has a very large, extensive parking program. They have a couple of temporary areas they've set up where they're doing some experimental stuff with. The city of Powell was in the not too distant past was very similar to Riverton and had very open rules. There wasn't very many regulations for parking, and they made some drastic changes to their parking. And so we did a lot of communication with Powell to see how those changes, what those changes were, how the city received those, how the police force and the groups that were enforcing those rules were working through those regulations and how that was working out. And that kind of led to some of the language changes and some of the ideas of where we're going with this. There's currently no budget impact to the ordinance change today, and it's my recommendation that after the public hearing, the City Council approves Ordinance 24-007 on first reading. I'll stand for any questions.
Okay. Let's start with Administrative Services Director. If you could please read Ordinance 24007 by title only.
Yes, Your Honor, proposed ordinance number 24-007, an ordinance amending Title 10, Vehicles and Traffic, to revise Chapter 10.16.110, vehicles 20 feet long or more not to park on certain streets at night of the City of Riverton Municipal Code, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bailey with the motion, Councilwoman Cox with the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. I vote aye. I declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak about parking? I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Larson with the motion, Councilman Bailey with the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Vote aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Declare the public hearing closed. I entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 24007 on first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Cox with the motion, Councilman Bailey with the second. Discussion. Mr. Bailey.
Okay. Under the definition for, let's see here, for seasonal closure, so it's from October 1 to May 15, that during that time, no trailer or recreational vehicles defined in this chapter may be parked on a city street for more than 72 hours and parked only on the portion of the city street that is directly adjacent to the landowner's property. Every parking space in the city of Riverton is landowner's property next to it. I think what you mean to say there is the vehicle's property, so they can park in front of their own property is what you're trying to say, correct?
Mr. Miller, go ahead.
Your Honor, Councilman Bailey, that is correct. I see what you're saying there. The
So we need,
the landowner / vehicle, there's a language.
we need to tweak the wording of that so that it means the vehicle owner's in front of the vehicle owner's property, or with permission from the non-vehicle owner's property owner, correct?
Something like that.
It's a word. It's a
It's
word
a li-
salad.
little- Yeah, so what we're trying to say is if you're parking in front of your own property, then you can park a trailer there for 72 hours. And that's the only
Or
place you can
recreational
park one.
vehicle.
Or recreational vehicle. Or if you get permission from a property owner that is not the same as the owner of the vehicle. So I can't park my trailer in front of Kyle's house if I don't get his permission
During the seasonal
during the
closure,
seasonal closure.
correct?
That is, Your Honor, that is the intention of it. I can certainly work on that.
So I think we need to tweak that language a little bit so it's clearer.
Well, and
which
actually-
I don't know if I helped with that or not, other than the way it is isn't right.
I would suggest that seasonal closure would actually remove that whole paragraph and just have it be means the time period between October 1st and May 15th. And you move that section elsewhere because you're trying to define a term there. And so having that be as a part of a definition doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
so that would be more of a,
Put it as F or
as, yeah,
See, there
F
we
instead
go.
of,
instead of
I would
there with
agree that that's a
seasonal
better
closure.
place for it,
And that would take care of some of that confusion.
right?
Um,
And are we meaning to during non-seasonal closures, so the rest of the year, it's okay to park a trailer anywhere you want? Or we sort of go into that
That's on E.
on
No
D
trailer.
and E, yeah.
Right, so it says, no trailer with an overall length of 20 feet or more, or recreational vehicles in general shall be parked on any of the streets in the city during the seasonal closure. So that's where there's an inconsistency between D and the definition of seasonal closure.
Correct, right.
And that's where that gets a little bit, I mean, they're just directly conflict.
And then E sort of does the same thing, but that means any time of the year, right?
Right. So they're saying off-season, basically, a trailer can not be parked without the permission of the adjacent to parked property owner.
Right, but in the definition, we got 72 hours, so there's an inconsistency there.
I wonder if it would be better just to completely remove that part altogether and just go with what we have here. It gets rid of the inconsistency. And it makes it so that during the seasonal closure, you can't have a recreational vehicle parked on any of the streets in the city, regardless of permission.
Right.
And then E would be no trailer or recreational vehicles parked without the permission when it's not seasonal closure.
What happens to the people that don't have any off-street parking?
That's a good question.
Well,
That's going to affect.
well, that's one of, but it's one of the problems that we're having also.
Just 1 second. If you buy something and you have no place to park it, and you're gonna park in front of Tim's house or Mike's house, because your failure to plan is not an emergency to me.
You're saying that if somebody were to purchase an RV and not have any place to park it besides on the street, and then they want to park it in front of your house, their failure to plan is
Or
not
their house, but it's year-round.
Yeah, well, it's just this is big. I mean, for the number of words in this ordinance, which is 1 page, we've dealt with some that have been a lot longer. This makes a lot more difference in how we do business in the city than just about any other ordinance we've dealt with for the last while.
Your Honor, Counsel, I'd like to answer a couple of questions for some back and forth that we were having there, and then I'll get into that portion of it as well. So I do agree that if we take the second portion of seasonal closure and make it F, there is some writing of the language there with that. The intent of what that's doing is saying this is what we can do during this seasonal period, and this is what we can do without the seasonal period. And then the D and E state trailers over 20 feet. So trailers, a small recreational vehicle or a small trailer during the non-seasonal closure has more liberty, but they have less impact. And so we're stating this is a recreational vehicle, 1 by definition. This is a seasonal closure by definition. This is what we do during the seasonal closure. And then this is a length restriction to each of those. So that's kind of the intent of the way that there's 3 different lines that reference the same thing, some's distance and some's not. The other portion of it is a firm, by language, this is a firm stance, different than what we do today. I mentioned the city of Powell earlier. The city of Powell had 0 parking regulations for campers, RVs, and vehicles in the city right away. They adopted a similar code. It's not terribly different than this one. Their definitions are a little bit different, and their time periods are certainly different. In the first period after it was adopted, there was some folks that impacted. There was some negative impacts too. Very directly, the positive changes to their community made a difference to the parking in their streets. I reached out to my peer in Powell. I reached out to a couple other members of city staff in Powell and talked to them. I'm like, well, this happened about 2.5 years ago there, so it's a recent time change where this was done. And a tertiary effect of this is in the city of Riverton, there are large amounts of commercial property that's not being utilized, period. Blanket statement. Privately owned commercial property in the city of Riverton that's not being used currently. In the city of Powell, in the city of Casper, and in multiple other cities that have gone to larger restrictions for removing large-scale parked vehicles in the street, have realized that their commercial property values have increased because there's a new use status for unused barren commercial properties. and that's to lease out trailer spots for rent. So pick a large, industrial lot up by the airport. I can fit 150 RVs in there, charge X amount of dollars a month to do that. That property that's never had any capital gain ever to the city of Riverton is now a positive. It's also a positive to that landowner. That's something that wasn't necessarily considered when they made the changes there, but they do realize that business does exist now because of the rule. But they do have a handle on a parking issue that we're full in the middle of. Living in campers and parking campers in the street is something that we deal with on a pretty large scale.
Your Honor,
Yes, go ahead.
why are
Councilwoman.
we limiting the 72-hour timeline to seasonal closure? If they bring their boat home for the summer, they can just park it there all summer? They don't have to move it after 72 hours?
During the,
Go ahead, Mr. Miller.
The May to October, that's not the seasonal closing?
yeah, Your Honor, and Councilman Cox, yes, if that's under a 20-foot, if that's under a 20-foot length, then it would. It's just a vehicle. It's no different than a fairly standard sized vehicle. That's the intent of it. If it's larger than that, then they need to find somewhere off the street to park that. The 72-hour allowance is for, say, Councilman Bailey's going, or yourself are going hunting, and it's October 15th, and you got your camper and you're loading you park your camper in front of your house and you're loading it up and you're leaving in the morning. That's the intent of.
Well, and Your Honor, the reason I ask is because in the summer, it seems like there's more RVs and boats on the street than there are in the winter, at least in the neighborhoods I've driven through. And that's usually when kids are out playing and it's more traffic along the side or, blockage on the streets during the summer. So I just didn't know if I was misreading this, if they could keep them on the street during the summer.
Yeah, Chairman, Councilwoman Cox, to make these corrections here, so trailers and vehicles of use under 20 feet would have the ability to do that. Definition, it does allow very easily that to be modified and change moving forward. So we could work on a progressive change. What's proposed in front of you today is a pretty stark change, but it does have the ability to be progressive with small amounts of change. The kind of complete rewriting of this ordinance, the intent of it is to add some definitions and add some groundwork to where we can modify it. There's really no language to work from in the code the way that we have it now. It's really hard to even, it's
Your Honor, I think,
Mr. Butterfield.
thank you. As it relates to the question of 72 hours, we also need to look at section 12.12.050. There is a reference in city code already that relates to the 72-hour restriction, and that's specific to any object or vehicle or item upon any street. So as this discussion advances, I would recommend that we also explore this section of code as well, so we don't have conflicting ordinances.
I see. And I guess, so just to clarify, this is kind of how I broke it down. Number one, what I'm going to call a long vehicle, something that's longer than 22 and a half feet. Can't park on city streets, period, end of story. That's what we've got at the beginning. Then a heavy vehicle can park on the city streets, but only during the summer months. Talking long, we're talking heavy. Long trailer or RV, no parking seasonal, but also can't park without permission. So during the summer months, you can't be parking somewhere without permission from the adjacent landowner. Now, that's an interesting concept because this is the city's right-of-way, and we're giving the adjacent property owners the ability to decide who parks on their property through which we have the right-of-way. Not that I'm saying
It's
that's
not their property.
well, but that's exactly it.
It's adjacent to their property.
Right. So we're
They
kind
feel
of
like it's their property, and they're mad when people park right now,
Yes.
even if they park their cars in front.
Well, and it's even worse when you
But
live on
they're
a
wrong.
cul-de-sac.
But they're wrong.
So,
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. We're basically giving kind of an ability to make permission to property owners who are adjacent to a right of way.
right now, if they're just parking their car in front of your house, they can do that, right?
Yes, it's
Yes.
only the big,
Will this make it where they can't do that, or?
No.
nope, this is just,
trailers?
As long as it's not over
Trailers and
20
RVs.
feet or 22 and a half feet.
yeah. Well, but anything over 22 and a half feet, you just can't park. So that's where this gets a little bit difficult because
Have this kind of clear. So,
naturally an RV is going to be generally over 22 and a half feet. So that's where we get some inconsistencies with what we have here. You're saying anything longer than 22 and a half feet, any vehicle that's longer than 22 and a half feet cannot park, period, on city streets. And I know you define RVs, but my point is that creates a little bit of confusion in the way we have it. I mean, even if we put in something, a vehicle over 22 feet that is not an RV, that would make that more clear, if that makes sense.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
by definition, a vehicle is different than a recreational vehicle. And so, and because of the ability for a fifth wheel camper to be considered a recreational vehicle, but it is absolutely not a vehicle. And this is the language barrier that those who matriculate Webster's dictionary a lot really struggle with. It is by definition the struggle that we have with the way that the rules currently are. Also, the changing of the recreational vehicle definition does now include something that didn't exist 10 or 15 years ago, and that's the stock trailer with the living quarters built into it. It's just anything with quarters, basically, is what's into that. And so we state no vehicle without a preface to vehicle. That is just by definition anything that only categorizes in the vehicle category. We do need to restate those dimensions and those classifications for recreational vehicle because they are two separate things. Even though they contain the same name, they don't have the same preface.
But the problem is that every recreational vehicle is by definition a vehicle because it is a device upon or by which any person or property may be transported or drawn upon the highway. Right, so the point is every recreational vehicle is a vehicle, but not every vehicle is a recreational vehicle.
It's a different class of vehicle.
Exactly. And so clarifying that and saying no vehicle with a gross weight of 10,000 pounds or more that is not a recreational vehicle, or no vehicle with an overall length of 22 and a half feet that is not a recreational vehicle is the way we'd have to do that in there. Does that make sense? Because our definition of vehicle is broad enough that it encompasses recreational vehicle. Because it's a device upon which a person or property may be transported or drawn upon a highway. So we'd have to clarify that in those two places. Which then gets even more confusing. Okay, so back to this idea, though, and I agree with you, Mr. Miller. I think the more that we have clarity, the better, right? We don't want to have confusion. That's when we have, it makes it difficult to enforce. So I think the idea behind it is good, but I guess my question is just maybe making some of those changes. And now I'm looking at no trailers or recreational vehicles. I guess in the definition of seasonal closure, if we put that in as F, we would be saying during October through May 15th, during this time period, no trailers or recreational vehicles may be parked on a city street for more than 72 hours and parked only on the portion of the city street that's adjacent to the landowner's property. You're referring to, in that case, a new class of vehicle, which is a recreational vehicle, if I'm not mistaken, that weighs less than 10,000 pounds
And under 20 feet.
and under 22 and a half feet. Is that correct? Is that the intention there? That's what I was thinking.
Your Honor, no, that's not, the 22.5 feet is intended to be for a motorized vehicle not classified as an RV.
Okay, so,
That language would probably look like a motorized vehicle not classified as an RV.
okay, so that would be a motorized vehicle not classified as an RV.
Correct.
And then, so then what are we capturing with that definition if we pulled it out and put it as F? What are we trying to have that fit as?
Your Honor, the language that's under seasonal closure now during this time period, no trailers or recreational vehicles. Meaning what we're trying to capture there is to get a large quantity of the RVs and large scale RVs and large scale trailers off the streets, so they're easier to traverse in the wintertime.
Okay. So then aren't we already doing that with D and E?
'Cause that only speaks about trailers.
Well, but it says no trailer
Yeah.
or more or recreational vehicles in general.
Correct, Your Honor.
D and E
That's
say recreational
okay.
vehicles in general. So we're not
A
talking.
little bit redundant.
Yeah, well, we're not talking a recreational vehicle in general. What specific recreational vehicle are we trying to deal with there?
Your Honor, the difference is one states recreational vehicle is a blanket statement, so during the seasonal period, no recreational vehicles can be parked on the street. During the non-seasonal period, recreational vehicles under 20 feet would categorize as a separation. So during the summer, a smaller camper doesn't cause the grief that it does in the wintertime.
Okay. So just to make sure we're clear here, a long trailer or RV, no parking seasonally. A long trailer or RV can't park without permission of the adjacent to parked property owner during the summer months. A smaller trailer and a smaller RV can be parked, but it can't be parked for more than 72 hours and can't be parked without permission of the adjacent property owner. Is that what we're looking at?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
I don't think it's a bad idea to do it year-round. I kind of agree with Councilwoman. It's a problem in the other months, too.
Yeah, fair point.
Well,
Mr. Bailey?
And if
I
we're going
guess
to go in, we might as well go in.
Yeah.
Address it.
go big or go home, right? I
But
guess
we like the smaller, not the bigger. I'm just kidding.
bigger's always better.
Oh,
I guess we've got a little bit of a dilemma here in the wording, and I don't want to set a bad precedent by saying that the adjacent property owner can have any input into what can or can't park on city right-of-way streets. I think we have a problem there. I understand the intent of what we're trying to do, where I should have a little input if they park in front of my house, but I don't think I should. If it's either gonna be a public street and anybody can park there, or it's gotta be, I get to control it. I don't think you can go, I can control it on this kind of vehicle, but not this kind of vehicle. And I know we're getting off in the weeds a little bit, but I think it's a realistic thing where, because in general, the public sort of thinks the parking spaces in front of their house are theirs, and they're not. And I don't know that we want to go over that line at all, because it just opens up. Now you're going to have somebody calling up going, hey, this guy's parking in front of my house in the parking space, and that's my parking space. Well, it's not their parking space.
I didn't give him permission.
Right, it didn't give them permission, and I don't think we want to go there. Or you got to go there all the way, and then the parking spaces in front of my house are mine to decide who gets to park there. But that, so then,
the expectation.
on Main Street, does, one of the stores on Main Street get to say who parks in those parking spaces? Well, they can't. Right? It's a weird dilemma. I don't know.
I appreciate all the work you've done on this. It is neat. I don't know what it needs.
Well, I think I just wanted to clarify, I almost want to have pictures, you know what I mean? Bigger than this RV, smaller than this RV, bigger than this trailer, smaller than this trailer. Just because I'm very visual and it's hard to parse it out, I guess, for me.
Your Honor, we're talking about a time where winter conditions affect what you can park on the street. On Sunset, 2 years ago, we had a mini Mac and a truck parked on Sunset with 4 feet of snow on the truck and the trailer. And it stood there throughout the winter. Now, it was impossible to get around that with a snowplow. So whether it's his or hers or whomever's, safety is impeded. You drive along 16th East after the park there, and we're parked on both sides with trailers and pickups, and if the city needed to get a throughway to a hospital, good luck. So that,
And in your example, whether it's 20 feet or 30, it doesn't
matter.
change that.
Then we've got on Aspen, where we've got a house that, as Mike says, the property in front of your house is not your parking spot, it's the city, and so if I have a stop sign and I park a trailer in front of that stop sign, I realize there's an ordinance that says you've got to park it so far behind the stop sign so that you can see. But nobody enforces that. So I've got a neighbor down there on Aspen that calls me regularly and tells me that this neighbor of his is unkind. You know, when you break the rules and you cause difficulty to your neighbors, you're not being neighborly. So, picking these, whether it's a recreational vehicle, whether it's 10,000 tons, whether it's 500 pounds, are we the city of brotherly love or what? Screw your neighbor as long as you can get a parking spot. Now, Mr. Perano, Dean, and myself have a lot of vehicles, and they're not parked on the road. They're parked in a garage undercover. And again, your wants and desires, if you don't have the property to park them off the street, it's not my fault. But that road is my driveway.
There's a lot of people in the city that don't have street.
Your failure to plan is not mine.
But then again, if you have no off-street parking
Oh, you're serving.
and you've
Oh, yeah.
parked there, I mean, you've purchased it, and when you purchased the property, it was your understanding you could park on the street,
Well, yeah.
and now you don't.
Well, now you can, but you can't have 15 vehicles and park in front of Mike's house and John's house and Fred's house. And just because it just doesn't, it's not fair.
Well, and again, parking your car there overnight and going to work the next day is
That's
different
one
than,
thing.
That's different than parking your RV there and it stays there all summer long or all winter long or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
and your boat is here and your camper's here and, that's what we're trying to prevent. I just don't know a way to do it without getting too far in the weeds. The 72-hour thing, I think, is the most effective part of the whole thing. And maybe,
Well, and 72 hours is great, but if I move it 6 inches,
then it's,
You know, you're still playing. the
clock
game.
starts over, yeah.
You're playing the game.
Okay, well, now that we have beat a dead car to death, a dead RV to death, broken down car, abandoned vehicle, I guess, what's the council's pleasure? Do we want to, are there any motions for any amendments, changes? Or are we just ready to vote on this, as Lindsay said? Let's vote. Go ahead.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it needs reworked a bit because we all aren't on the same page. But we'll have another reading, right? So you'll have time to work on that. So, yeah.
Your Honor, Counsel, I have some really good notes on, you guys may have seemed like you were running in circles, but the language questions that we've got, I think when we clear those up and put those down in the format that we're talking about, I think we'll be able to segment off and get those definitions in line with what you guys are thinking, and then we can look at each of those individuals on second reading. And remember, this is a parsable restriction. It's not an all or none restriction.
In other words, we could say, hey, we like this, but let's hold off on this until, I mean, the reality is, though, it's election night. We have 2 people here in the audience. Thank you for sticking it out with us. I would think that that's kind of taking a lot more attention than parking right now. And it might be something where we can get some feedback from our constituents and come back at a second reading and decide we do want to parse some of it out. We do want to have some of it be that we just do this and maybe look at the rest of it later, but that's another thought. So,
Your Honor,
discussion.
just as a point to provide your options, you as a council could accept this on first reading as it's proposed. You could make amendments, as was mentioned. If you vote this down on first reading, it wouldn't be able to come back until there's a new council seated, which would be in January. So if you look at this and you think there's more work to be done, we could bring it forward on second reading with that more work to be done, or it could come forward as a new ordinance after the new council is sat.
Or we could also table it, just come back and first reading still and have it with some ideas too. I mean, that's another thought.
Your Honor, I'm not sure we could rework the language if you table it.
Fair. I mean, it would have to require a motion to amend it. Yeah. Okay.
Your Honor, I would make a motion that we amend the ordinance to adjust the wording as we've discussed and come back on second reading for another view.
Okay. So that would include that clarification regarding seasonal closure, moving that down to F, and then making sure that however we word it, that the vehicle is clear that we're talking about a non-recreational vehicle versus a recreational vehicle as we're looking at that. That's the motion.
Yes.
That's the second. Any other discussion on the amendment?
Your Honor, could we get who was the second on that?
Yes, I'm sorry. Motion was from Mr. Bailey, second was from Mr. Larson.
And for clarification, this is a motion to amend the current motion, and the amendment includes adjusting the language on definitions, bringing out part of the seasonal closure into a new paragraph F.
Correct.
As part of the definition adjustments, that would be between vehicle and recreational vehicle, and clarifying that.
Right.
Is there a desire as part of this amendment to also address the permission component? Because that's been part of your discussion. I just want to make sure if that is part of your amendment.
Do we want to remove
Yes.
that?
Well, I think we need to at least look at options and maybe further legal ramifications of that.
Okay. I don't know that that's quite,
Is that an answer?
well, I mean, I just don't know if that's enough
We don't want them to think it's their property.
Right, I don't know that we want to go, and I don't guess the whole, the permission part, I don't think is what we're trying to accomplish.
Well, I guess
much.
just in terms of tonight, I guess I would say if the motion is to absolutely remove that permission section, or if it's to leave it, but with direction to staff to consider that on the second reading. Is that where you're at?
That'd be fine, yes.
Okay, so for right now, we're saying leave the language there, but we'd like to have staff look into it and see what the ramifications might be in terms of giving people a property interest in the city right away. Does that clarify?
Your Honor, thank you. So to clarify, the motion, the motion to amend amends the current language to adjust the vehicle definition, to adjust the seasonal definition, to create a new subparagraph F, and that is it.
I think, yes.
And then bring us options on the permission part.
Which wouldn't be an amendment now,
Right.
but something that
Right.
could be handled.
Future information.
Not really a part of the motion, but
Yeah.
part of what we're wanting to ask staff to do. Clear as mud, Ms. Harris?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank goodness for recordings.
Sounds good. All right, so that's the motion to amend, as we've discussed. Any other discussion on the motion to amend? All in favor, say aye.
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 Vote aye. Amendment as noted. That's enough information. Any other discussion on the main motion? Passage on first reading of the street parking ordinance. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Vote aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. Come back and discuss more on the 19th. Terminal parking lot rehabilitation, sorry, police department vehicles. Bid award, police chief's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. During the preparation and adoption of the 2024-25 budget, council authorized the purchase of sport utility vehicles for the police department and for our patrol officers. The council budgeted $150,000, which included the procurement of the vehicle and installation of the required upfitting equipment. Wyoming State statute requires the purchase of any new vehicle to be completely or competitively bid. The bid was advertised on October 19th and closed on October 28th. The bid opening held on the 28th of this year. The city received bids from 3 different companies, with all bids being responsive. And the separate bids that were received include from Chicago Motors, Fremont Motor of Lander, and Fremont Motors of Riverton. The bids were for separate vehicles, and I'll go through the vehicles that were proposed. Chicago Motors bid a 2020 Chevy Tahoe four-wheel drive, police fully equipped, stock number R4794. It basically has everything except police radio and decals. Has a mileage of about 31,000. The second bid is also for a 2020 Chevy Tahoe police fully packaged, stock R4795, mileage of 42,000. Chicago Motors third bid for 2020 Tahoe police package, stock R4793, mileage of 38,000. Fremont Motor of Lander also the bid for new 2025 Dodge Durango Pursuit SUV. They would be new, and for each of those vehicles would be $47,279. and that does not include the upfitting. The upfitting for a vehicle is about $18,000 on top of that. Fremont Motors of Riverton bid 2025 Tahoe police pursuit vehicles. For each one is $54,170. And again, that's for the new vehicle without the upfitting. Staff proposes the city award 3 separate bids from Chicago Motors for the 3 2020 Chevy Tahoe vehicles. Include stock numbers R4793, 4794, and 4795 for the amount of $119,585, which includes the transportation cost to the city. And with that, Your Honor, I'd stand for any questions.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to approve the purchase of 3 2020 Chevy Tahoe four-wheel drive SSV police SUVs from Chicago Motors of Chicago, Illinois, in the amount of $119,585.
So moved.
Second.
$119,585 even. Apologies. Motion by Councilman Larson, second by Councilman Bailey. Any other discussion? What if we wanted to purchase 2 Chicago Motors vehicles and 1 Dodge Durango?
That's the council's prerogative.
I mean, since it was advertised, it'd be possible if we said we wanted to get 2 used and 1 new? Mr. Butterfield?
Your Honor, you are able to award any of the bid packages that were submitted. So as it's proposed, you would award 3 bid packages from Chicago Motors, but if you as a council would prefer to award, for example, Fremont Motors of Riverton for just new vehicles, you could do that. Or the Durango pursuit vehicles, or a combination of 1 or 2 used vehicles with a new vehicle. I think one thing to keep in mind is the bids that were submitted for the new patrol vehicles are not upfitted. Therefore, they don't have the package necessary for our patrol officers. And that would include the cages and everything else that goes with a patrol vehicle.
And how much did you say the upfitting would be on average for that, Chief?
About $18,000 per vehicle.
The only reason I say that is because if we were to do 2 Chevy Tahoes so that we're taking a chance on some used vehicles, we want to save some money, we want to try to increase our fleet more than we usually do. And so if we said 2 Chevy Tahoes and then 1 Dodge Durango Pursuit, that's $127,000. You add to that about 18, and we're just about where we were budgeted.
150, yeah.
150.
Is it 18 apiece?
Yeah.
A piece, right?
But the other ones are already upfitted. The Chevy Tahoes are
Other than a little bit of radios and whatever, yeah.
We're saving quite a bit of money. I mean, more than it even looks like on paper on the used one. But the question is, okay, take a
This one's
chance.
breakdown.
Right. We take a chance on these used ones, get them here from Chicago. If we get a new one, we still have a reliable new vehicle. And, I mean, we've got the budget for it. I appreciate, Chief, you being very frugal. But if we were to go with the proposed 3 from Chicago Motors, we're well under budget, and it's like, we want to get a new one, might not be a bad idea.
So you're talking you want to buy 4 versus 3?
No.
Used and 1 new.
2 used and 1 new.
2 used and 1 new.
Well, yeah,
2
but
new and 1
you're
used.
you're saying we're 119,000. We're still under the 216 with buying 4 versus 3.
Well, but we only have 3 from Chicago. That's the problem. If they had bid 4 for us, then we could get 4 used ones maybe. And that wouldn't be a bad idea. I'd go for that. I don't know. Just a thought up to the council.
Your Honor, one thing I would recommend is if you do decide to do a combination, you should specify which bid you want from Chicago Motors by the bid ID or the vehicle ID, because they do have different mileage. They do have different packages. The chief has reviewed these bid submittals, and he could probably recommend to you which of the three would be his priority for the selection.
The other thing we could do is we could do the 3 used, and as we go through the year, once we get them here, we could keep that money there in the budget. If we think we need another one and we scrimp and save some money in another part of the budget, we could try to grab a 4th.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I would anticipate in the next couple of weeks, we'll be coming before council on another bid proposal for a prisoner transport van, and there may be some potential money that won't be used for that purchase. So should council want to proceed with the 3 used and maybe see how much is left over between both separate packages, and we can see what's left.
Or if the prisoner transport van came in over budget, then
Still
we
be
could
okay.
use the money that we've saved here. Okay. I think that's a good idea, and there's nothing wrong since we've already received these bids. We don't have to accept it right this minute. Could we come back after the transport van?
Your Honor, there's usually a bid hold date, and so the bids do expire after a certain amount of time. The other thing to consider is there are order banks that you have to meet, and it may or may not be possible to meet the order bank in time to receive the vehicle this fiscal year. But these are things we can look into. So if it is the desire of the council to award the 3, see how the transport van comes in, we can examine what's available. It's probably not likely that the bid hold will last long enough, but we could look at it and then also see what the order banks cutoff are.
Okay.
Do you know approximately what the mileage is on
For which one?
for the used ones?
Yes, so the first one is 31,000, one's at 42,000, and the other one's at 38,000. This particular company that provided the bid, they're pretty fluid on the used police vehicles. They come in really various types of conditions as far as the equipment. Some are the basic police package, some have just a spotlight. We've closely monitored different companies through the U.S., and they're usually come and go pretty quickly. So staff's recommendation would be if we're going to move, we move fairly quickly because these probably won't stick around.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Any other discussion? Motion is to accept the bids from Chicago Motors for the R4794, R4795, R4793, fully equipped 4-wheel drive SSV police Chevy Tahoe 2020 vehicles. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. I vote aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
I guess we'll keep an eye on our transport van and kind of see how that goes. I mean, the more vehicles we can get here, I think kind of where you were saying, if we could get the idea where we could have more police vehicles parked around town even, I think there's a benefit to that.
We could buy blow-up dummies to put in.
No, more so the idea of
That just shakes his finger all the time.
officers being able to take them home and have them parked in front of their homes. Right now, I think that's something really that just the sergeants have right now.
Your Honor, if I may, we've expanded that so all the patrol officers live in town have take-home cars.
Great.
So as we expand our force, it would be ideal to have more marked patrol vehicles out on our neighborhoods.
All right, so the ones that live in town can bring them home. That's great. I think the rule used to be as long as you lived within like 15 miles of the city limits or whatever. All right, moving on. Resolution 1514, terminal parking lot, rehabilitation grant application. Mr. Eggleston, you've been quiet over there. It's your
Thank
turn.
you, Your Honor. This is a request for approval on resolution number 1514, supporting a grant application for the rehabilitation of the terminal parking lot at Central Wyoming Regional Airport. This is another one of those federal, state, and local fund matches. Federal funds is funding up to $956,262, and the state and local funds are roughly 2.5% of that each, or $25,165 each, for a total project of $1,006,592.
All right. Administrative Services Director, please read Resolution 1514 by title only.
Resolution number 1514, a resolution of the governing body of the City of Riverton supporting the application of Airport Improvement Program Grant number 3-56-0024-061-2025 from the Federal Aviation Administration and Grant ARI 032 from the Aeronautics Division of the Wyoming Department of Transportation.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. I'd entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 1514.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bailey with the motion, Councilwoman Cox with the second. Any discussion? Thank you very much for your hard work on this.
I did very little of it.
Good,
Thank you. That's why we have engineers.
good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. I vote aye. Resolution 1515, self-serve fuel grant applications. Public Works Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. This grant is similar to the one you just passed, for the resolution you just passed. This is supporting the installation of self-service fuel station located at Central Wyoming Regional Airport for general aviation traffic. This is a $421,052 grant, of which federal funds are $400,000 and the state and local funds are $10,526 each. This will install or allow us to provide self-service fuel for general aviation aircraft.
Okay. Administrative Services Director, please read Resolution 1515 by title only.
Sorry, yes, Your Honor. Resolution number 1515, a resolution of the governing body of the City of Riverton supporting the application of Airport Improvement Program Grant number 3-56-0024-062-2025 from the Federal Aviation Administration and Grant ARI 028 from the Aeronautics Division of the Wyoming Department of Transportation.
You read those numbers so much better than I do. I'd entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 1515.
So moved.
Councilman Bailey with the motion, Councilwoman Salisbury with the second. Any other discussion?
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ingleson,
Yes, sir.
am I reading this correct? That it says that's for one 1,000-gallon tank?
One 1,000-gallon general aviation fuel.
For $400,000?
Yeah, well, a lot of it's engineering.
How much did you spend on
A
general?
smidge less than that. I guess, and again, I don't want to overguess the engineers without looking farther. It seems like a tremendous amount for one tank, even with the associated equipment involved. And that doesn't get us into Jet A, just aviation gas, correct?
That's correct.
So is there a plan to be able to add Jet A to that facility in the future, or?
At this point, we haven't really discussed it. This is just a general or GA fuel only at this point. So, as trying to find the breakdown.
And again, this is just the grant application, but could that be expanded if, or is those parameters set if we get a grant that's all we can do?
In other words, could we use the money if it turns out this would cost less to get Jet A as well?
Your Honor, if I may, the FAA is pretty restrictive on the funds to the application that you submit. And so if you submit a certain scope of work that then goes through the airport district's office and you receive funds related to that, it's very challenging to expand the scope for the federal funds. It's possible, but you need to make a very strong case through the FAA and the ADO.
Is it, I mean, I guess the point is, and I think maybe what you're getting at, Mr. Bailey, is at this point, could we expand what we're asking for through the grant? I mean,
Yeah,
where
I know
we
we've
would be
talked-
able to do that in terms of with the money that we have.
Your Honor, I think it'd be valuable to see the breakout from the engineer as it relates to the cost of the actual infrastructure versus the cost to design and prepare bid documents for that infrastructure. And if Mr. Eggleston can find that, we'll communicate that in this meeting. Otherwise, we'll provide it later. If you as a council would rather have that information before you vote, you could table this. This is not time sensitive. We could bring it back at the next meeting if that's beneficial to you.
That's what I would prefer, I guess.
Is to table it?
Yes.
That's a motion. Do we have a
That's a motion.
second to table it? Mr. Larson?
$400,000 to design a tank and the system on it.
What we've been saying?
I put in a 6,000 ton sulfuric acid tank with local engineering. It's not gasoline. It's not rocket science. And my budget was less than $50,000. That included the tank, the welding of it together, the piping, which is not. It was Schedule 40 cast iron.
This was 30 years ago.
Well, yeah, but $400,000 is 10 times 35,000.
Do we have a second for the motion to table it until we can see the
Second.
breakdown? All right, we've got a motion to table it from Councilman Bailey and a second to table it from Councilman Larson. I guess as a point of order, if I understand correctly, this is actually a non-discussion motion, so we just vote on it. All in favor of tabling the resolution 1515, would that be until November 19th, the next meeting?
I guess as soon as they can.
All right, so this would be tabled until our next meeting, November 19th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. I vote aye. Motion passes. We'll come back. Sound good?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had to just jab you a little bit there, Councilman Larson.
It's okay.
I happen to know when you were working in the sulfuric acid industry.
Well, yeah, you were a lot younger than you are right now at 42.
Yeah,
Did that bit on Sanskrit tablets, right?
that's right. Back when you used typewriters.
Well, he was using crayons.
Oh, I was. Okay, Brownfields Program Community-Wide Assessment Grant Application. This is an exciting. Mr. Butterfield.
Yes, Your Honor, I'll be very brief. The information that's pertinent to you is in your packet. What we're requesting tonight is your approval to submit a grant to the EPA for the Brownfield program. To help define what a brownfield is, it's real property where the expansion, redevelopment, or reuse of which may be complicated by the presence or potential presence of hazardous substances or pollutants is there. So what we're looking at is an opportunity to explore our South Federal Corridor and some other properties where we may find some contaminants, and that can range from asbestos to lead paint to fuels. And we can work with the granted funds, which will max out at $500,000. There is no match requirement. And we can work on assessments. We can work on remediation with private property owners. We can also work on re-envisioning the properties. So if we want to look at the South Federal Corridor and re-envision what that could look like with some reinvestment and redevelopment, these funds could go towards that. There is a 4-year performance component to this grant, so there would be 4 years to spend the money if we are successful in this grant application. I'll stand for any questions, but like I said, I think everything else is in your packet, and we're just seeking approval from you to submit this grant.
All right, I'd entertain a motion to authorize the submission of a community-wide assessment grant to the Brownfields and Land Revitalization Program administered by the United States EPA.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Larson,
Second.
second by Councilwoman Cox. Any discussion? Are you going to tell us that this should cost less too, Mr. Bailey?
I would never do that.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. We should do the fiscal health report earlier in the night when we have people here.
I think so. I'd like to congratulate the 2 remaining gentlemen left in the audience that are still here. And thank you.
I have been too.
Riveting review.
I've been waiting all night.
Me too.
He's 4% ahead of her. That's good.
They've had some that have
Well,
reported.
and they do
You know
Good,
that-
we won North Carolina.
You know this guy.
sort of like some of these others, you know. Look at this, Minnesota, 61%,
His border bill, they call him.
No.
Wisconsin.
Know him. He's always-
Are we all caught up?
We are.
All right.
Thank you, Ms. Harris.
Thank you all for your patience and for all going through all the great information that we had tonight. I know I'm the last thing that's keeping you all between this meeting and the election results, so I'll try to make it relatively quick. So the governing body did approve our final fiscal year 25 budget, which totaled $36,991,000. It was about $3 million less than what we did, what was approved last year. The city budget is comprised of 12 funds, including the general fund, the enterprise funds, and then fiduciary funds, and there's 31 divisions within the city government. Our overall capital projects out of our $36 million budget was $18.7 million in projects and purchases. Approximately 64.6% of the entire capital budget is supported by grants, and you well know that based on the grant resolutions that you all approved tonight. We worked very hard to get a lot of grants to cover this. Of the 25 total grants that the city has budgeted in fiscal year 25, 13 of them are dedicated to capital improvements, and these 13 grants represent 97% of the total funds received from the 25 grants. The general fund is the primary operating fund of the city, and it's funded by tax revenues. The total budget for the general fund this year was $13.65 million. What I have up on the screen and what you have in your packets is a recap of the total revenues that we've received compared to what we have projected so far this year, and then also what we have spent so far this quarter in the first 3 months of the year. The largest sources of our revenue for the general fund are sales and use tax, mineral royalties, severance tax, and fuel taxes. And then we also receive direct distribution for over-the-cap federal mineral royalties delegated by the legislature. And these funds primarily are used for one-time purchases to support capital projects. However, in recent years, we have been budgeting supplemental funding to help offset some of our operational costs. At the close of the first quarter, the general fund reflected a positive balance of $493,497, which is over above $147,000 where we stood last year at the same period. Much of this is attributed to the low spending that we've had in capital outlay. And then additionally, 14 of our 17 cost centers in the general fund have come in below budget in the first quarter. We normally would look at this, the expenses, and look at anything that's 25% or less. They would be within their budget. Community services, administrative services, and the weed and pest did come in above budget for the first quarter. Community services are the contracts for services that we allocate to other entities, which would include the Paws Animal Shelter, Eagles Hope, our recreation. Historically, we have funded those on a quarterly basis, and this year we funded most of them at 100% upfront. There's a few of them, our rec we did quarterly just based on the amount that they were awarded. So it only makes sense that those are going to come in a little bit higher at the close of the first quarter. We'll start catching up to those as we move forward into the fiscal year. Administrative services was also up a little bit. We do experience a lot of upfront expenses in administrative services at the beginning of the fiscal year. Mostly which includes our insurance premiums and then a lot of our software expenses. We pay those on an annual basis and they're typically due in July. So that's why you see that one is up. And then the other one is the weed and pest division. And of course, that's because it's a type of a seasonal budget as well. We do receive grant funding for weed and pest and we have received that. But they have done a lot of their work and expenses already in July through September. And so we'll start to see those weeding down again, weed and pest. Anyway,
It was good.
yeah, it was pretty petty. We'll start to see those costs going down a little bit more as we move through the year. As a reminder, the budget was approved to transfer $848,000 from cash for general fund operations and $759,000 for capital. Additionally, we budgeted $551,000 to transfer to the airport fund to support operations and capital. So the net result of the transfers budgeted this year was $1,056,000. Right now, we're doing pretty well. We're ahead $439,000. So hopefully we can continue that trend. I'm sure the chief's going to save some money on his transport van, and we can use that money to go back into our budget.
You're not wanting that necessarily to be.
So this is a slide of some of the major capital expenditures that we have budgeted out of the general fund this year. Got a lot of money going on. And a lot of this is actually grant-funded projects, which is really, really nice. I'm not going to read each one of these individually to you, but we've got a couple of, we've got a TAP project going, Transportation Alternatives Project from the Federal Highway Administration and YDOT for a Safe Routes to School project. The Webwood Stormwater Project, which I believe we have already nearly completed, correct, Brian? We have the City Hall and Airport HVAC replacements, which is grant funded by ARPA. We did find out from SLIB just in the last couple of weeks that we originally applied for that grant at a 66-34 match. Our projects came in, thanks to Michael Miller and his hard work, came in significantly under budget. It is actually going to allow us 100% amount of the grant that they awarded us, which was, I think, $1,115,000. So essentially, those two projects are only going to cost the city slightly more, about $5,000 out of the $1 million project. So we had some great savings with that grant project. We've got the Smith Road storm drain replacement, the Sunset Park restrooms, and then we've got a bunch of great things going on for the police department this year also. The 150 budgeted for patrol vehicles, the transport van, mobile data terminals, which will allow them to do their reporting from inside of their vehicles, e-citation software, and then the Motorola recording system, which we already have in place. We have not been billed for that yet, though, so that's coming along the bend. Moving on to the airport fund, I think this is the first year in my entire history of being the treasurer for the city that the airport fund is closed with a surplus balance in the first quarter of the fiscal year, so we're really excited about that. The total budget for the fund is a little in excess of $3.7 million, with $3 million in capital projects slated for this year. The airport fund did close the quarter with a positive balance of $69,173 in revenues over expenditures. Last year, during this same period, this fund closed with a deficit balance of $546,000. We're doing pretty well. Much of the positive balance is related to the collection of operating revenue at the start of the fiscal year. We got on the ball this year and got our airport lease rentals all billed out fairly early, so that's helped us. And then all three of the operational cost centers within the airport fund came in below budget after the first quarter. The approved airport budget did include a transfer of supplemental funding and cash from the general fund for $551,000 to support capital and operations. And then additionally, we budgeted $18,000 in cash for capital projects this year. Some of our airport capital projects, while they are small, they are expensive. We have $2.2 million scheduled for the rehabilitation of the North General Aviation apron, and then $375,500 for the SRE carrier and the rotary plow. The rotary plow I just mentioned in tonight's Finance Committee meeting. We have received that, and we just got that approved for payment this evening. That's also a grant-funded project. The Airport Master Plan project, which has been ongoing, and then also a 1,000-gallon diesel tank and pump. It should be noted that most of our airport projects are funded at 93.75% federal funding, 3.75% state, and 2.5% for local. I know Mr. Eggleston mentioned 2 of them that were approved tonight for the resolutions, and our state and local match was only going to be 2.5%, and the feds were going to cover 95%. But historically, this has been the breakdown on the federal grants that we've seen through the airport fund. Moving on to the water fund, the annual budget for the water fund is almost $5 million. It's $4.98 million. There are $206 million in capital projects proposed for the year, and the fund closed the quarter with a surplus balance of $262,000 in revenues over expenditures. We get excited over that. However, we realize that our heavy watering seasons are July, August, and September, so our water receipts come in a little higher during those months, and they'll start to decrease as we move through the winter months. This budget was approved with a transfer of cash of $346,000 to cover capital projects, and you can see that many of our cost centers came in decently this year, or this first quarter.
Do you have any big projects that we're waiting for there with the water fund?
Well, here we go. We got the water fund capital. So we are working on the water meter replacement project. I was advised today that we're about 50% of the way through the project. A lot of that is ARPA grant funded, and that is split 50-50 with the sewer fund. So I'll go through the 50-50 splits as we talk about water, but understand that the sewer fund is paying for part of this too. We have a $660,000 water tank project that is grant funded by WCDA. And that's going to be going on this year. And then we'll be doing several smaller projects, fire hydrant and valve repairs, which are much needed. The council has already approved the valve maintainer and the mini vac, which is going to be split between the water and the sewer fund, leak detection equipment, and then just a couple of smaller projects that we'll be working on with that. As far as the wastewater fund goes, let's see, the annual budget for the wastewater fund this year is $6.74 million. It's higher than the water fund because over the last several years we've had many expensive improvements to our aging wastewater treatment plant, and we're still focused on that for this budget year. The budget closed the quarter with a balance of $54,000 in revenues over expenditures. Last year we closed with a surplus balance of $109,000. But we're doing improvements to the plant, and so we're a little lower this year. This budget was approved for a cash transfer of $550,000 for capital, including the previous mentioned water meter replacement projects. Some of our capital projects for the sewer, $2.6 million in multiple rehab projects for the plant, which include the UV disinfection system, the clarifier unit rebuild, and the grit system upgrades. This $2.6 million is also grant funded. And then the remaining water replacement project, the $260,000 for the A&T sewer lift station. And then as you can see, as we're moving down the line, we've got a couple of other projects that we've split equally with the water plant and, water collection and distribution. And we've got a fuel pump replacement that I had in the water fund, the sewer fund, and then also that's being split through Public Works through the general fund as well. Did I miss anything there? So.
A couple of carryovers too from last year.
Well, a couple carryovers from last year, yeah. So the sanitation fund is kind of our quiet fund. The annual budget for this fund is $2.79 million. The fund closed with a surplus balance of $148,000, and we did approve a budget with a cash transfer of $281,000 to offset capital. Last year, this particular account was running at a deficit of $301,000 at the close of the first quarter. I think that was because we'd ordered a sanitation truck and it came in late. So That's what the story was with that one. As far as sanitation fund capital, we have budgeted $389,000 again for a new sanitation truck, also a new recycling truck, and then there's some work that's being done on the methane well house and the monitoring units for that. So those are the 6 items for the sanitation fund this year. And the last one in the favorite is the Air Service Fund. Of course, this fund is primarily funded by 0.5% economic development tax. This fund ran at a deficit of $14,000 over the first quarter. We did receive an invoice this week for the period of July through September of 2024, and it was the largest invoice we'd seen. It was for $406,000. So the council did approve a cash transfer of $800,000 to assist with Air Service. I think we're going to have to keep a close eye on this one this year. And just continue to watch those as they come in. Again, this is really driven by that 0.5% economic development tax, and it's going to make a difference, I think, on how things turn out tonight at the polls. And with that, that concludes my presentation, and I'd stand for any questions that anybody would have.
Any questions? Looks like the 0.5 cent did not pass. I just looked at
How close was it?
it. Not even.
Not even.
The 1 cent passed by a hair.
Oh.
So we still have our infrastructure, so that's good. Yep. That's all precincts reporting. Thank you very
We've
much.
got some work to do, it sounds like.
We'll have to figure some things out. Thanks, Ms. Harris. Thank you so much for keeping a close eye on the financial health of the city and being able to present it in, what was that, 8 minutes?
I tried. And this information, I also wanted to mention, is also posted out on our website. And I would encourage anybody that has any questions about the city's budget or our financial positions to please reach out to Kyle or myself. Brian's got excellent information regarding our capital projects, and Michael as well. So reach out to us if you have any questions. Books are always open, and we're willing to talk.
Well, and I appreciate even some of the small things like that the water fund, of course. Yeah, we're ahead right now, but when you get into the winter, we don't have as much coming in. So that makes sense. All right. I don't think we have any need for an executive session tonight. So we can all go home and keep an eye on our favorite races. Pray for our country. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Larson with the motion. Councilwoman Salisbury with the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. We stand adjourned at 10:04 p.m.
Where does he get these? Where did he get the?
Actually, the best way to do it is to look at the official results. The unofficial results